It's hard to believe. Just hard to believe that in Australia, where so many South Africans have been streaming and running to South Africa. I myself have two nephews living in Australia. And why, people go into Australia, they felt that, this is a place where it's, they're safe. And the amount of, it's become more and more prevalent, anti-Semitism, try to burn it down a shul. You have so many things. I don't know what was the start of the fire in California, but that is such a blow to the entire United States, and it's a full blow. How many billions of property and investments and articles and things were, just gone into, became charcoal, living, and we're supposed to be living in a modern society, which they couldn't stop it. That it's like one of God's messages of a fire, a wind, and with all the technology that we have, they don't have it, and in IT. So that's an interesting thing to bring out how ungrateful people can become, and how teaches us how we have to be grateful. Some people does a favor, a person helps a person along, people gives good advice. Be grateful to say thank you. So many people find it's difficult to say thank you. They have a reason here, there, and the other. The guy didn't say hello to me, so I'm not going to say hello to him, although that he may have helped him to a great extent. So that is something which we have to think about. Then even worse than that. What could be worse than that? So to say that Moshe Rabbeinu, it says Vayigdal Moshe, that when first he was a baby, then he became big, and then after Moshe Rabbeinu became, a great person. So it says Vayigdal. One was in stature, and another was that he felt for the people. What does it mean? He felt for the people. He went out, and he knew this was his brethren. Was his people, and then he saw two people fighting, and he went over them and said, "Look, what you one was, what are you doing to each other?" So they says, "Oh, you want to kill us like you killed the magician, the Egyptian." That of course there was an Egyptian taskmaster that was beating to death a Jewish person, and the Gemara explained what happened over there. Together with the person, maybe committed adultery with his wife, and whatever, and. But then Moshe Rabbeinu realized that the word was out, that they realized that Moshe Rabbeinu, it says he looked here and there, and he killed the Mitzri. But how did he kill the Mitzri? He killed the Mitzri by burying him under a mound of earth. So there again we see that they were ungrateful, right? That Yosef, that he had Moshe Rabbeinu, he went out of step, out of line, and in order to do something good for his Jewish nation, for his Jewish brethren, and these guys had heard about it. And they were talking about it. Of course, you talk about it, it's going to reach the ears of Paro. But before long, he ran away. Moshe Rabbeinu, that's where he went, and he met Yitro and Yitro's daughter, And and the saga we know, we're going to learn a lot about it as we go through the book of Shmos. But then Moshe Rabbeinu says, I couldn't understand. He says, what have they done? What have they done to the Bnei Yisrael to cause this? That Pharaoh turned on the people. He made them work slave labor. He took away so many things from them. And he says, now I realize that Dalturim means that they spoke Lashon Hora. They told on what people have done. And unfortunately, we were all involved in things, and the Taka one sees the amount of hurt that a person can do to someone because of Lashon Hora, because he wants to speak evil of a person, he wants to say bad. It doesn't mean and cause the person so much heart sore. But and that was Bnei Israel. So I think that a simple like gem, as if to say that Rav Moshe Feinstein took out of the Parsha. We just we read it, and it says that Bnei Israel were taken to do so much hard work, and they were taken to so much advantage taken of them, but he brought out what was the reason. The reason in one word, and that they didn't have grain. They were ungrateful. They didn't. There was a Jewish man who had saved the country, brought riches to the country, and that happened. But then, worse than that is what the Datan and Aviram, that we found them over again, that they caused a lot of anguish in the desert on the Bnei Yisraels going through for the 40 years in the desert. And they themselves were tattletales, saying Lashon Hora, and as a result of that, so much bad happened. So you think, well, maybe, it was them. And again, that's unbelievable that in this last war, which has gone on for 2 years and has caused so much pain and sorrow, there were times that, and I remember there was one time it was in the papers, the Bnei Yisrael, I think, were ready to even attack Iran. And somehow somebody went and they, using a colloquial, that they spilled the beans. That they said what they did. And why did they do it? They did it because they were just for money. That's it. They found out that some people, they were arrested, put in prison, whatever it is. And but for money, imagine Jews trying to hurt Jews just to make a couple of extra a little bit of money. And that's it. That when this person has to be grateful. And in true life, that we all find it, where people don't express their gratitude and don't express their thanks, and take from others and don't do the right thing. That's something which is to be ungrateful, and to be ungrateful is a terrible thing, and it's not something which happened 2,000-3,000 years ago at the time of the Exodus. It's like history repeats itself in every way, and I say that the entire world is ungrateful to the Jewish contribution to science, to medicine, to finance, and they take it and use it, and at the same time do the most hideous things in just about every country in the world. There's this terrible anti-Semitism. It's very interesting. That was one great point. A second great point from this week's parsha, it starts off, it says, Elu Shmos B'nai Yisrael Aboy Mitzrayim. these are the names of the Bnei Israel who came to Egypt. So the Torah specifies and points out Va'elu Shmos. It could have said Va'elu Bnei Israel, right? These are the children of Israel that came to Mitzrayim. But it puts in an extra word, Va'elu Shmot. These are the names of the Bnei Israel who came to Mitzrayim. And the Shemot means they're Jewish names, who they are, that they clung to their religion. And we'll show it how, in a very big way, it's unbelievable how it was shown. But they realized that it's so important to have a Jewish name and family, because the Jewish names, they preserve family, because we name people after people who have passed on. Right? The Sephardi and other, they name people after even the living people, right? But it's what's the idea? The idea is to keep the name, to keep that what the Judaism represents. I'll never forget that. And it's always been in my mind that having grown up in South Africa, so I had lots of friends, and the schools that we went to, the boys, things like that, in many places that they were Jewish schools, really. A lot of Jews in one school was called Jewish government, right? But I remember my one friend, a dentist, and he's still practicing, used to, but we have the same name in a way, because I'm Sadok Shmuel, and we used to call him Tzori, right? Tzori, a good tennis state player, and the Jewish name, right, was just part of the family, part of the tradition. Those days, the shuls of Pesach or Rosh Hashanah, people who hadn't bought a place in the shul used to stand in the doorways. It was packed. Those were actually beautiful days. That Elu Shmos B'nai Yisrael. But how do we understand it? It's interesting that Yisrael is Yaakov, right? His name originally was Yaakov. Both, they remained. But his first name was Yaakov, meaning heel, right? He came out second, holding onto the heel of Esau. And the name Yisrael was when he fought with the angel that we had a few parshas ago, and he overcame the angel. The angel says, "No more you're going to call your name Yaakov, we're going to call you Yisrael," right? But Yisrael comes from the words, from the language, Ki sarita im Elokim v'im anoshim v'tuchel, as if God and with people, and you overcame him. Not he fought with Hashem, but the angel of Hashem, who was Esau's angel, and he was able to overcome him. But Yisrael is a name of really standing up for your rights and ready to fight for your rights. And so, but the Parsha says, when it states who came into Egypt, it says, Va'elu Shemot, these are the names. And we said, well, what's so important about the names of Bnei Yisrael, of the children of Israel, Haboim Mitzrayim. And then it came to Egypt, 8 Yaakov. The word 8 Yaakov means together with Yaakov, Ishu Beitu Ba'u, they came. So in the previous portion, which is the end of the book of Genesis, it mentions that his name was called Yisrael. But like the Israel, when they left Eretz Israel, that became less used. What is the name? Yaakov. Yaakov is the name that was going to get the Jews through the long Golus, right? And they know that after a few hundred years being in Eretz Israel, they went to Golus once, and then they went in Golus second time in the year 70 in the Common Era. And that's over 2,000 years ago, around 2,000 years, and we're still in real Golos. We have Eretz Israel, but we holding on to Eretz Israel with our fingernails. Really, that's what's going on today. And people think, well, I'll run somewhere else. And now a person can be in, who knows, Detroit. A person can be that we hear people, a woman stabbed, or this happened, or that happened, or fighting with the Arabs in the universities of America. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So there's no place to go. Really, no place to go. And the only real place is Eretz Israel, because Eretz Israel is, thank God, we run the country ourselves. It's a Jewish country, plenty of politics, too much politics, and religious politics, irreligious politics, and very, 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 very difficult decisions to make. That you have 100, please God, at least there's 100 left of those who were captured, and they're talking about giving over 1,000 Hamas terrorists, murderers, to let them roam the streets for a couple of people. What about the rest of the people? And you find that half the country says do it, and half the country says don't do it. And just we need guidance. We all praying like anything in all the shuls that the Rabbanu Shalom should is going to take over. Human beings, it's past the strength of human beings. But what we're trying to bring out is that when they went into Galut, when they went, they came to Egypt. They stayed there for a long time, for 210 years, until they left. So, but how did they keep their religion? How did they keep to know who they were and what they really stood for? So the Torah says, it's not how strong you are, your tanks, and certainly you can't have Jewish tanks in South Africa. You can't have Jewish tanks pretending Ukraine, in Russia. Imagine there are Jews in Russia and the Jews in Ukraine. God forbid, you hear those stories. And the Jews, they used to be in lines, in furrows. One side is one country and another side is another country. And once one shouted out Shema Yisrael, and the Jew on the other side said, Shem Elokeinu, Shem Echad, famous story. So why? Because the Jews, wherever they were enlisted into the army, and they had to fight for whatever the Goyim were fighting for, but they were Jews, but they certainly didn't want to harm each other. But unfortunately that happened. But what the Torah is saying is when they went into Golus, when they came into Mitzrayim, when Yaakov went down with all his children, it was 70 altogether, with those who were in Egypt, it says, Eis Yaakov, Ishu Beiso. They came, a man and his family. Beiso refers to his house, to his wife, to his family, but it's Eis Yaakov was what Yaakov stood for. And the name of Yaakov stood for, Yaakov, it's written in the Torah, Ish Oholim. He was a man who sat in the tents of learning, and he was a learned person. And he was and that's why he was successful. And I'd like to say something I heard, but I think it must be, I can't remember from who, but I feel it's so true that that you find that they say that brothers in the Torah, in the whole of Genesis, did not show brotherly love. When it came to the first set of brothers, so you had Yitzhak and Yishmael, right, at each other's throats. And then another generation, when they had in the next generation, you had Yaakov and Esau. So it's known that it's been the fight between the two all the time. You found that even amongst the brothers of Yaakov, that 10 of the brothers sold Benjamin, sold Yosef, such a terrible thing, right? But when Yaakov says a parent should bless his children every Friday night, it says, Yisimcha Elokim, he says, your father says to his son, God should make you, or put in front of you, or should make for you, to your children, that they should be like Ephraim and Manasseh. Now, what was great about Ephraim and Manasseh? They were two sons of Yosef who were born in Egypt. So there's many things people say, even though they were born in Egypt, that they still remained steadfast in Judaism. But and to explain it even better, it says that the older was Manasseh, but when Yaakov blessed him, he crisscrossed his hands, like we mentioned, and instead of him blessing with his right hand the elder, that was Manasseh, he blessed Ephraim first. Why did he bless Ephraim first? So very interesting, because the Chazal, the rabbis tell us that Ephraim used to go every day to go and learn, have a shir with his grandfather. So, and Manasseh maybe was more of a man of the world, living in, of course, both lived in Egypt, right? But he didn't have that great hashpa'ah, that great teachings and learning from his father, grandfather. So therefore, Ephraim was blessed first, right? And many other connotations. But very interesting, this idea that although that he did that, you don't find that there was an enmity between them. The Torah doesn't write of such a thing. Like the Torah writes of the enmity between the other groups of brothers. So at least they were for Shalom, and they stood for people who born and bred in Egypt, and they still carried on the tradition of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and that was the greatness. So anyway, so that's we learn such beautiful things from the Pasha, how to act, how to be grateful, what's important in life, and to go for that, not to be Baalei Lashon Hora. It's to just be a step above, and even where the Jews found themselves in all the different nations of the world, that the Baruch Shalom, we pray every day in the Shemona Esrei, there should be a kibbutz galugoliot, that there should be an ingathering of all those people who are outside in Eretz Yisrael. Because even in Eretz Yisrael, we still don't have the peace that we really want. And of course, that as much as they are very frum people, but they are very people who are not religious at all. And so therefore, it doesn't mean that we have it. And we don't have the Beis HaMikdash. If you don't have the Beis HaMikdash, we're missing out on so much, because Yom Kippur and all the festivals and throughout the year, when a person did anything wrong, he was able to bring sacrifices, and through that get a kapora that we don't. But so I just want to end off that we thought for the last 2 years, every day and every other day, something was happening, and we were living in Mashiach's Zeitung, like we say, the times of Mashiach. Well, we are living at really moments of history right now. Should they make such a pact? Should they not make the pact? No human being can give the right answer. And only the Ribono Shalom can give the right answer. And please God that we hope and we look forward to our Guru Shlema, and that Shem will come as he is doing. Everybody shows him that even as far as physics is concerned, the chances of all these rockets which were sent, that in Eretz Israel, it's just about 0% damages, and the amount of billions and billions, and the amount of rockets which were sent, it just doesn't make sense. And where else in the world where the same rockets were used, there was at least a 40% damage. I saw that. So, and yeah, you have close to 1 million an FS. No, you know what I mean, maybe less than 1%. So the Ribono Shalom certainly out there doing the miracles. Please God, we should see a pure miracle, and have only Shalom, and please God that Hamas should be once and for all taken away from the nation. Thanks. Okay.
Amen.